thank you all for coming. This is, first of all, this is my studio. If any of you have been to 56th Street, where I spent 40-something years of my life, this is a completely different environment. We have 17,000 square feet. This is one part of it. My sample room is here. Our offices are here. Everything is here. These two fantastic people train us in this space. We work out here too. Mats and all kind of equipment come out, and they're from Physique 57, so I'll be talking a little bit about that exercise, which I have been doing since 2016. Yes. 2006. Sorry. So I'm a big believer in fitness, and you're all going to get my book. I wrote it, and we launched it during COVID. And the beautiful thing about it is we keep getting people writing and following us and sending me notes about how they have markers in the book. And all of it is kind of a handbook for women mostly, and men if you want to know too. I say it's for everyone, but it does have a little menopausal stuff in there that you might want to ignore. But overall, the idea of being an entrepreneur, being in business for 58 years, I turned 80 this year. I can't even believe myself. Don't applaud. Don't applaud. But the idea is that being an entrepreneur, owning your own business, is in itself a big task. Being a designer, as many of you know, in itself is another big task. Being a woman doing that, you know, I think it's just as hard for men. And I'm not going to pull the woman card. I think we can't pull that anymore. But I do think the idea of longevity and aging with power is really important for everybody. And that means thinking about having a healthy lifestyle, thinking about what you eat, what your habits are. It's an imperfect science. When you screw up one day, just don't make it 2 days or 3 days. Stop and go back. We all have our little methods of how we recoup from misbehaving. But in the book, I had the whole idea of hacks. And hacks are really almost tools. If any of you don't know the word or don't use it, it's basically shortcuts or tricks to a better life. And so I've developed a lot of hacks in my role as entrepreneur, designer, kind of the person that's responsible for everything. And some of them I learned early on. When I graduated from FIT, I was sure that I didn't want to be a designer. When I graduated, this was Mad Men time, you know, the Mad Men girdle, bras, corsets, stockings, the whole thing. I hated fashion. I hated it. I said, there's nothing, I could not wear the clothes. I hated every moment of it. And I wanted to be a fashion illustrator. So that was, I wanted to be a painter. My mother said, I'm not supporting you. You better learn how to do something else. So FIT, I was lucky to get a scholarship. I also had a painting scholarship that really helped me build my skills in anatomy. So my first job after FIT, I went on this great interview. My mother was so happy. She's going to get a job. I don't have to think about this anymore. And it was horrible. I had a terrible experience. The guy was eating a tuna sandwich with his feet up on his desk, and he tells me to put my portfolio down and turn around for him. And I was like, oh my God. And I just started crying. I thought I grabbed my portfolio, I ran out. My stockings being held up by my garter belt all ran. And I was so distraught. And at the time, the New York Times was where you went to find a job. I don't know if any of you even remember that, but that's where you got a job. And I think that was such a good idea, by the way. So I found a job at an airline in the office, and I thought, that's what I need to do. I need to travel. So I get this job. I don't know how, because I didn't know how to type. I had no office skills. And I was at Northwest Orient Airlines, and I was sitting in front of a computer. This is 1964, a computer. Who knew? Who knew? So I learned all about computers sitting there doing all kinds of things, from reservations to flight arrivals, selling tours. And I traveled to London every weekend for $29 round trip for 4 years, actually almost 5 years. They made me leave when I found out I had a business, and my husband and I were in Time magazine, and they called me in a microphone over the office, come to the office. They said, you either quit this or you lose the job. And I was like, okay, bye. But what I did learn was an amazing amount of office skills. And I also went through airline training. And if anybody knows anything about it, it is the best education you can possibly get in every kind of service possible. And we were taught how to pack efficiently. So here's the first hack that I will share from my early 60s travel. So what I used to do was go to Biba and Bus Stop. I don't know if any of you know at all what that is, but these were like some of the best stores in London in the early 60s. And Twiggy was the model at Biba. And I would buy these dresses and roll them up airline style. So the airline teaches you how to fold in the sleeves, and then you fold in the sides, and you roll it tight, 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 tight. You take a couple of rubber bands, boom, you make it really tight. So I would get a garment bag, a deep garment bag, and put all of those little dresses, Nicole, I would put them all in the garment bag, and they would fill up, 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 up. And I would walk through customs, and I would then sell them to my friends who all wanted mini dresses, and mini dresses hadn't even been seen here. It was new in London, and here, non-existent. So remember, this is garter belt time. So how can you wear a mini dress if you have a garter belt? So when I was in my first trip to London, I hemmed up my skirt and I said, not wearing it. Nothing was above the knee at the time. Nothing in history on the streets was above the knee. So I come back to New York, got my mini on. I'm walking down the street, cars are stopping and they're calling me a prostitute. What are you doing? And I was like, you just don't know. You don't know. So my first hack is, by rolling up those little dresses, I was able to start my business. That was my way of bringing produce, which was my clothing, things I found at Antiquarius, things I found all over London. And soon enough, I opened a store for $285 round trip in the basement. Same street Betsy Johnson had Betsy Bunchinini. And we had, this was, now we're still in the 60s, and this was really the beginning of a revolution. And the revolution really has had profound effects till today. But now we have a new revolution. And this time is as profound, in my eyes, as that revolution was. that changed everything, but this one is like the beginning of electricity. That's how big I think this is. I believe AI is the biggest, most important thing we will ever experience. And I plan to live to 120 because I want to be here through this. So I'm just announcing it. I'm putting it out there, and that's the plan. So hacks are really so important in so many ways. There are hacks that have to do with relationships. So I can just bet in this room, for every woman that's been in here, maybe you have been cheated on. Am I guessing wrong? Am I guessing? What do you think? What do you think about that? So we know what that is. And we also have self-esteem issues that really start with our childbirth, basically, because we're supposed to be beautiful and all of these things that are totally impossible. So these self-esteem issues manifest themselves, and then we are cheated on. And it becomes a devastating, horrible moment in our lives. We've all been cheated on. And all of us have been cheated on. But women, we're a little bit more fragile with our self-esteem egos. So one of my favorite hacks is, for all of you who have seen other women dressing in these incredible ways, and you think, she can dress like that, I can't dress like that. She can wear that, I really can't wear that. Well, I say bullshit. That's the time when you've just been crushed, you put on that superhero, that superwoman superhero outfit that you think you can't wear. You go get it, you find it, maybe change your hair a little bit. If you don't wear makeup, maybe try some makeup. If you wear makeup, maybe take it off and try now. Do something different and just change it up. Break that cord to whatever your self-esteem was thinking of when you were identifying yourself. And for the first time I ever thought of that, it was when I was having a hard time thinking that I worry about fashion when maybe I should be finding a cure for cancer, people who do important things, that I'm worried about fashion. What's wrong with me? Well, I just told you why I'm okay with it, because clothing, fashion, beauty has such a connection to our self-expression, our self-esteem, how we see ourselves, and there's great power in it. So for any of you who are in the fashion industry, you're in a great industry. It is the hardest thing in the world to be in. It is the most difficult to survive in, but we do have a purpose. And so just that hack in itself gives you a little clue to the depth of how impactful how we look, how we dress is on each and every one of our lives. So we can change how we feel in a day. We can change who we are and what part of us we want to express by the way we change our look. And I bet that hack, first of all, you're not going to let anybody cheat on you again, number one. But number two is that hack is something you want to pass along to a friend who might have just had that happen to them. So that's hack number two. When after 9/11, something really incredible happened to me. First of all, I was born and raised in New York. How many of you are New Yorkers? Oh, good, there's more than 6 of us, yay! All right, so I cried. I was devastated that New York was under siege. And I thought a lot about it, and I thought about, from that day on, nobody would ever be the same again. We would always have a level of fear that never really happened before. We never thought we would be attacked in any way. And all of a sudden, this was different. So I opened the Wellness Cafe. And the Wellness Cafe, I don't know if any of you remember when we opened it, but the Wellness Cafe was a place where I decided I was going to put everything that would help de-stress, that would build the immune system, that would build a fortress against the stress. And in that, I decided olive oil would be an important component. Now, at the time, if any of you remember, if you were there, so when 9/11 happened, it was also the World Series in New York. And I was a huge baseball fan, Yankee fan. And I was going to the World Series, and I happened to be sitting next to a bunch of guys who were actually not New Yorkers. One of them was from Barcelona, and he was he was a finance guy who made a lot of money, and he was going to find the best olive oil in the world. And I grew up on olive oil. My mother had us using olive oil for everything. We had a tablespoon every day to be regular. We had olive oil in our hair. We had olive oil to protect us from the sun, a natural SPF, by the way. We had olive oil in every food group you can imagine. It was just, there are 30 things you can do with olive oil, and my mother made sure we knew them. And so I got into a conversation with this guy, and he said, why don't we find the best olive oil in the world together? And I said, I have a job. Can't really do that. So in March, he called me and said, I'm in Barcelona. I want you to meet me. Let's go find the best olive oils in the world. And I was like, I am not a spontaneous person. I have to plan everything. You don't run a company and be spontaneous. So I turned around and I said, I finished my collection. I'm going to do it. So I did. I must say it was a little romantic in addition to finding olive oil. But I brought olive oil and every kind of product that went with that into the Wellness Cafe. And I still order tons of olive oil. I have 2 refrigerators. One refrigerator just has olive oil in it now in bottles because I will finish all of those bottles before the end of the year. I give them as gifts, housewarming gifts. They're the best thing you can do. So I recommend using olive oil as a hack. I'm sure you've all purchased so much moisturizer and every face thing that you see on Instagram, anything. I do too. I buy it all just like you do. But I always go back to olive oil. I put it on my feet with socks at night to soften my feet. I put it on my face. Hairdressers that work with models, strip models' hair color out with olive oil. It takes color out of your hair. So don't put it in your hair if you dye your hair. It's not a good idea. And in general, you can eat it and you can put it on your face. And if you can do that, it means it's clean and it's perfect and it's great. So olive oil is the best hack. If you have a little swig of it every morning, you'll be good. It's really good. It's good for your skin. It's the hack of life. So having said that, there are other hacks that I use in business too. And I've always thought this way about negotiations. So this is a good one. This is a little different from the love tips and the olive oil tips. But I also just not too long ago got married to a brilliant man who teaches me things every day. He doesn't think he's teaching me. I'm just listening to anything I can because he's so smart. And what I believed in negotiations, I see him do in actions. And this is a tip, a hack on negotiating. Thought you didn't think you would get that in this little setting, but here it is. So the first thing you do, and you all know this, but by saying it, it changes it a little bit. First thing you do is, what are you negotiating about? If you start negotiating and you haven't thought of where you want this to end, you're wasting your time. It's gonna mess up. You're not gonna get what you want. It's not gonna happen. So what do? What is it I want to achieve? And that's what you put in your head before you open your mouth, before you think about anything. Then you think, what does this other person want to achieve? What's important for them? Because you can't have a good negotiation unless the other person is happy too. Impossible. And I always think, if you have a good negotiation, it's possible you can have more and probably do more business with that person and have other relationships with that person. So it's important that everybody comes away with something and that you feel good about it, that somehow you feel good about it. And the first thing you want to do is have a sense of humor while you're negotiating. And the last thing you want to do is act like we are acting now in this world of hating and yelling and fighting with each other. Changing that up and just putting love into it and feeling and thinking, I want to know this person for the rest of my life, and I want this to be good for both of us. And sometimes you have to walk away from some things if they're not going to be good. And you have to be ready to do that. You can't put everything into that basket. So my most important hack from a business perspective, because I love negotiating, I love having long relationships. People that work here know that they know that I'm working with the same people for forever. It is really important to be sure that you get what you want and that other person gets what they want too, and that you look at another opportunity together in the future. And it is really possible. And it's really possible if you have a sense of humor about it. So I just came back from London, and everybody has a sense of humor. It is so refreshing. I laughed a lot, and I thought, oh my goodness, we need to make this happen. So I met Twiggy, and her best friend is Joanna Lumley. Is that her name? Yes. So did anybody here see Absolutely Fabulous ever? Okay. So Twiggy and Joanna are best friends, and I said, Twiggy, what you need to do is the two of you need to do a sitcom on Netflix that goes on forever so that we just laugh and look at life in a completely different way. So hopefully they do.